first things first, I sent you to this document because this is kind of like a design manifesto, for lack of a better word. I am a design fraud. I am married to a design professional, and that's how I feel like I have some sense of design and what design could look like. And so I picked her brain to help me create this session. That is basically the basis for many of the things that are shared here. So I need you to know that I have no professional design background, but using the items that Canva provides for us, we can feel like professionals. And this goes for everybody in the room and everybody on the call. You don't have to have that design brain to feel like you can create really amazing things. So we're going to talk through a couple things today, but I want you to know that this document is basically home base for just about everything. So what we are going to do, because today is the focus, or we have the focus on Canva, what we are going to do is bypass most of this stuff because we are going to talk about many of them as we go through our time today. So I'm actually going to scan all the way to page 9 if you would like to join me on page 9. Actually, it's the bottom of 8. I switched some things around. So this is the bottom of 8. You'll see the words Canva, and that will take you to where we are going to start for today. And Joey, the link here is in the Google Meet. It's also up top. It's just bit.ly/refine maze, and that'll get you here. Okay, so first things first, we are talking about Canva, which is a free tool for everybody that is on this call. Since we are technically a school or school adjacent, we get access to the free version for education, which means that we get all of the bells and whistles for free, just the same as every classroom teacher, every administrator in the buildings that we work with. Canva has made this free for you. If you would like to take advantage of those benefits, and you are not already a part of our team, go ahead and click this link here to join our ESC team. And then that will basically put you through the verification process. I get an email and I say, yep, this person works here. And then you get the free access. Now, there are a couple things that I have put in that we are going to talk about in just a little bit when we actually dig into the tool. And that is our brand kit and our district brand kit. So I've been building some things behind the scenes that only people who are a part of that team will get access to. So if you are not a part of that team, go ahead and click that link, and then you'll be able to see those items here in just a little bit.
What if you're already signed up? Can you join into that team?
Yeah. So if you click this link, then you can just kind of associate yourself with that one too.
Good.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, good question. All right, so for our work today, we are going to primarily work within Canva Design School Level 1 on this template. So if you would, please click this link here, Canva Design School Level 1, and that is then going to take you to a template. Your screen is going to look something like this. Yours will be a little bit different because I'm the one that created it. Basically, I get this button that says edit template, but what we want to do is use this template for a new design. And when you do so, you should have a screen that looks very similar to this. Okay, so this is kind of like a little workbook that we're going to use. It's going to kind of show us some of those design principles while we also click all of the buttons. That's half the fun of today, is going through and clicking as many buttons as we possibly can. So, so this is going to be our, like I said, our little workbook. This is going to live in your Canva account. And so when you go to Canva here in the future, your screen will start to populate with items just like this. So you'll see I am currently signed in to my account. I see that up here in the top right. And then I can see all of my most recent designs. And as I scroll down, there's more and more and more. And you see little baby Dan Lowmiller. Hey, Dan. And many other things that I have designed and created. So very similar to your Google Drive, you can create folders and you can organize these items. We'll get into that a little bit later. I'd call that more of like a step 2 kind of thing. But when you come to Canva, this is what it's going to look like. All right. We, however, are working in our little workbook here. And so this is where we will start. All right, everybody with me in the room? Everybody have their template ready to go? Everybody online ready to go? All right, so let's click on slide 2. That's down here in the bottom. This is just like a Google Slides presentation, except the difference is in slides, we get that timeline over here on the left side of our screen, whereas here in Canva, they put our slides down on the bottom. Okay. For our workbook, this is how this is arranged. So you'll notice there's something over here on the left side of the screen. This is where we're going to learn the task or learn the skill. And then we're actually going to put it into practice over on the right. So this is a fully editable document for you. So this isn't like a sit and get. We're all going to do these things here together. All right. So we're going to interact with our elements over on the right, and we're going to learn about what we should do here on the left. Let's go to our first skill. All right, so at the very beginning, we talked about some design principles. Okay, the first one that I want to talk about is hierarchy. And this isn't necessarily the idea that like, I'm gonna read the thing on top first and then make my way down the page. With design, we can draw people's attention just based on how we arrange things or how we call attention to certain things. So you'll see here in the example, it says, you will read this first. Why will we read that one first? It's large. It has that like kind of bold highlight behind it, right? It's really eye-catching. It's popping out. That's probably where our eyeballs are going to be directed. And then naturally we work our way down. We see that next biggest thing. It says, and then you will read this, and then this bit, and then we will realize that there's a teeny tiny font up close to the very top that says, and then you will read this last. Okay, so there are little tricks of the eye that we can do as we're creating things and as we are like trying to create resources for our teachers, for our staff, for our parents, for whoever that may be. There are little tricks of the eye that we can kind of put into place. So let's slide then into slide 4. And then we are going to do our first activity. So it says, scale text and objects to show importance. So essentially what we're going to do over here on the right is very similar to this, what we just saw on the previous slide. So it says create hierarchy by increasing the size of the header. Awesome. So let's change the text size of design exhibition to 72. And to do that, all I'm going to do is click this text box so that, I'm selecting it. And when I do, I notice that there's a little floating toolbar that has appeared across the top. This is where, like if you're a Microsoft Word or a Google Doc person, this is very similar to that. So this is how you're going to be able to change the fonts. This is how you'll be able to change the font size and colors and do all the extras to the item that you have just selected. So to start, we have something very easy. It just says change the text size. That is over here where it says 21. There are a couple ways to do it. I could either hit the plus sign until I get to 75. That's going to take a while. Or I could just click on the numbers. You'll notice that it's highlighted. I could just drag my little bar down and select it, but this one gives me 72 and it gives me 80. It doesn't give me, oh yes, it does. I'm sorry, I had 75 in my mind for some reason. So I have 72, I can just click 72 and ta-da, that is then in place. Okay, so take a moment, make that flip for yourself. Think about, is there something else you could do to the page? Maybe call attention down to these ones. There is another way that you could go about increasing the size or decreasing the size as well. And that is using the little dots. Hi, welcome. You'll see these dots over here on our text box. With a click and drag, I can resize as well. You'll notice that the number where we just typed 72 or we just found 72, that is also changing as we click and drag. This I would say is much more imprecise, whereas we could just come over here, type in that number, and ta-da, we're done. We have our header the way that we wanted to. Okay, so starting off pretty easy, just talking about our hierarchy. All right, next, let's talk about alignment. There are a lot of really nice and easy ways that we can align the things on our page. And this is going to also bring our attention to like there are a ton of different ways to do the same exact thing. It's kind of like Google in that sense, where like there's 3 ways to do everything. There are a lot of different ways to do this in Google, and we're going to talk about a few of them. Okay, so as we're talking about alignment, we are also talking about like your left, right, your center, right? So as you're thinking about the way that you want your words to appear within a text box, that's what we're looking at here. But we can also align multiple items with each other at the same time as well. So I could select different things and then I can align them all in the same fashion. So let's get into that a little bit. And with our activity here, it says insert elements and align to the center, not too difficult. So we're going to create a design with a centered alignment. I've given you this little dotted line to show center, and we could just click and drag these items, right? We could do that, but I'm going to show you a different way that we can make that happen too. So over on the left-hand side of our screen, this is basically where we find all of the doodads within Canva. And I'm using that as a technical term. They don't call it that, I call it that. These are where the doodads are found. When we go into elements, this creates like a search bar where we can search for literally anything that we can think of. Okay, our little prompt says search flower in the elements tab. So I'm going to select elements. Up in the top, I'm going to search elements and type in the word flower. And when I do so, I can hit my enter key to start that search, and we'll see all of the different flowers that are available within Canva. All right, so feel free to select any flower you see. You'll notice that this has kind of filtered these out for us. We see graphics, we see photos, frames are also on here, which are really fun. We'll talk about those in a little bit. We see videos and we see some audio. So for this one, we're going to keep it very simple. I'm just going to add in a graphic. So I could hit see all, and it's going to show me all of the graphic flowers. And for this one, I think I'm just going to add, how about this guy? So when I click it, it will add it to my design. And then I can drag it into the space where I want it. You'll notice that as I'm maneuvering this around, some of the little red lines are appearing. Like I have one up there right now that goes all the way to the top and bottom of this design. And when I let go, it is locking that item in place. Okay, but we talked about this being alignment for a lot of different things. One of the really important things that I want you to take away from today is that we have been trained by our computers that like control is our multiple select. Okay, that is not the case in Canva. If you want to select multiple items at once, you have to use the shift key. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I have my flower activated, right? I can see that I have that little box around it. I also noticed that like it's kind of big, so I'm going to use these little dots to shrink the size of that flower a little bit. And then I'm going to hit and hold my shift key and then click on the text box for the word spring. And you'll notice now I have selected both of those items. Okay, so now if I come up into the top, in that floating toolbar, I see the word position. And when I select position, this brings up a menu for me on the left where I can align these two elements. So if I wanted to, I could hit left and it will align the flower and my text box to the left. I could hit center and it would align those perfectly in the center with each other. So now you'll notice that like my flower is right over top of spring the way that I want it. You could also do right in that same sense. You can do it in like vertical sense as well. So you could go middle and now they're like running over top of each other. You could do top, you could do bottom. You could really put this in however you want. This is also a really nice time to point out the undo button. So that's up here in the very top. You'll notice that I kind of, went a little bit further than I wanted to in my design. So I can hit this back button until I get it back into the way that I wanted it. And now I can click and drag these two items together until I get that nice little red bar that runs all the way through. And I know that now my flower and the word spring are perfectly aligned within that box. Okay, so take a moment and tinker and find exactly the layout that you would like. All right, so 2 tasks down, we are on our way to becoming design masters. Look at us. Yep, so Debbie, I see you said, can you show where to find position again? Absolutely. So when you have something selected, position arrives in that floating toolbar in the top. Okay, when you have multiple items selected, again, I'm using my shift key to make that happen. Then when I go to position, I'm impacting both of these at the same time. Okay, so again, left, right, center, these are all in that floating toolbar, and you'll see like there are a bunch of other things up here too. We are going to click on those buttons here in just a little bit as well. All right, so to clean things up a little bit and to give myself some more space, I'm going to hit this little X so that my elements bar goes away. And now that kind of cleans things up as I'm working, right? So this is my workspace on the slide. I just wanted that to be big and center. So I just hit the little X that was in that elements area, and there's no harm in opening it back up and then closing it again. No big deal. Very easy to do. All right, next, let's talk about repetition. And so this is slide 7. Okay, you can see where it says repetition helps to bring elements and designs together. Okay, I really like the way that this example is laid out because we see repetition in multiple ways. We see common colors and they all play really nicely together. That's what these little swatches are for. So I have this green, this red, and this white. And over the course of these different designs, you can see I'm incorporating those same exact colors. The other thing that is important to note is that we're using a similar set of fonts. Okay, I get 2 different fonts here. There's that more like signature looking one that's called Mr. Defoe. And then this more bold option here, this is Barlow Condensed Gold. There are serif fonts and there are sans serif fonts. Those are the 2 big font families. We're going to get real nerdy here for a second. Those are the 2 big font families. Serif fonts are the ones that have like the squiggly little doodads, right? Again, technical terms only, squiggly looking doodads. And then the sans serif fonts are the more like block. Those ones don't have all the fancy squiggles and whatnot. Those are more standard. There's a time and a place for both. For what we do, typically we want to make things as like readable as possible for everybody, for parents, for students, for teachers, for everybody. So I would say for most of the things that we do, it's probably best to work in that sans serif family. Just like I said, it makes things easier for everybody. When you start to get into more of like your script fonts, it gets a little bit more difficult, especially as we're thinking about like younger people if we're trying to create things for them too. So just something to keep in mind. All right, let's put this into practice then on slide 8. Okay, it says use repetition to keep your designs on brand. And that's a really important word that we're going to cover here, on brand. Here at the ESC, we have like some primary colors that we use in just about everything. It's that shade of red, like as you're thinking about our logo, it's the shade of red, it's the shade of teal. We also have the blue, like I always call it like a navy. And then I either incorporate like a white, a black, or a dark gray, because I think that those look really nice too. So, so those are the colors that we use. You can see here in this example, it's showing you where you can access other colors. So let's start with our color search. What I'm going to do is click on just the gray box that's surrounding this pizza picture. And when I do so, you'll notice that there's a little gray swatch up in the top. This is just like the paint bucket that you would expect to see within like your Microsoft stuff or in your Google stuff. Typically they use the paint bucket, but we are working with just this little color dot here for Canva. When I select it, it opens up my color palette. Okay, so all I did was I just clicked on this little gray and then my color palette came forward. Now, this is half of the fun and also the opportunity to go down an unbelievably long rabbit hole. Because every color that you could possibly think of is available to you within Canva. You could, I'm guessing most people are probably not as nerdy into colors as what I may be, but if you knew like a specific hex color that you were trying to match, so that's what this looks like here, this gray text. The pound sign or the hashtag sign, that's the start of a hex color. So something like 00C 4CC sounds really silly, but that is an exact shade of blue in this example of what you could type in to get a very specific shade of blue. What's really fun about Canva is that you could also just type in the word blue and hit enter, and it's going to bring up some color families for you to use. Now, what's nice about this is that they've already done all of the legwork for you. So if you're making your way down and you're like, wow, I really like this shade of blue within Mermaid Lagoon for whatever reason, then you can also see like this blue plays really nicely with that same color, and this white and this darker navy and this light blue. And now all of a sudden I know that if I use these colors together in a design, it's going to be really pleasing to look at for our viewers, right? We're not going like all the way across the rainbow. We're using really nice colors that work together. So take a moment and type in some different colors in there. You could also do like, if you know in the future that you like Mermaid Lagoon, then you could actually like type that in and it should populate for us. And now I have that one back. So as you're tinkering, as you're working, obviously this one, like the example says pizza place, but like you don't have to stick to those colors that we saw in the example before. So type in a few colors, see some color families, understand that relationship of colors that may play nicely together. I'm going to give you just a moment on that. And then when you're done, just select one color to make that background. All right, one more thing that is really fun about all of this is that I am able to do some things behind the scenes for everybody who is a part of our team. So that was like where we started our conversation today, making sure that you were joining our team. When you go to select your colors, what you're looking at first is like, these are all of the colors that can be found within this document. Okay, so every slide has like a different color and they are all populating here. I want to point out while we're here is that if when we got started, if you click the button here that says click here to join the team, then you should see a different set of colors as well. So what I did was I built some brand kits behind the scenes to anyone who joins our team. So the first of which I called SCESC Department Brand Kit. These are our exact colors for the Stark County ESC. So there's our navy, our teal, our red. I use this light gray a lot, even though it's not necessarily a color that we see in our official color scheme. And then obviously black and white. Okay, but what I wanted to do was be inclusive for every department that we have here at the ESC. And so these are the official colors for the Family Council. And here are the official colors for Spark. And here are the official colors for SST9. You can do your own brand kits as well. But I wanted to give these to you as just a nice little heads up to have all those colors so you don't have to take your guess as to what those may be. As you look at these two color or at the brand kits, this is actually a drop down because I've also done a separate brand kit that's called SCESC District Logos and Colors. These are also available to anyone who has joined our ESC team. And what I've done is I've gone through all of our member schools and I've found all of their exact colors. So if you're a person who works in Jackson, let's say, this is the exact shade of purple and gold and white. If you're a person who works in Lake, is that true? Lake, here's the exact shade of blue and red and white, and so on and so on. So these are all here, all available for you to use. What I've also done is I've baked in the logos too. So as you're looking at just the brand kits in general, I have all of the logos ready to go for you. So that way you could just pull those into your designs. And again, this is just for our ESC schools that we work with. I will add like our Spark schools and stuff. I'll add those later. Okay, all right. We changed our colors, but now let's look at font. Okay, so when I select any one of these word like text boxes, I also get a like text box like selector or like a font selector up here in the top left. And when I select it, there are thousands of fonts that you could pick from. In this very same way as like our elements had that little search bar, we have that same thing here. So you could type in the name of a font if you know one that you're after or you know one that you really like. You could also just do something like sans, and you know that you're going to get things that are like more straight up and down with none of those squirrely looking doodads. You could do, serif, and that's going to bring up all of your, your doodads. You can see ones that like it says handwriting or corporate or display or a whole bunch of other options for you. Again, just to filter out those thousands and thousands of fonts that are out there. One of the things that I really like is that many of the fonts that are available to us have different types or different styles within them. So for some reason, my screen is taking an awfully long time to load here, but you can see them kind of populate down here below. Next to each font, or I shouldn't say each, next to a lot of the fonts that we see here on our list, there's a little arrow. Okay, when you click this arrow, that's going to bring up the different styles of that same font. So for this example here, this is the font titled Canva Sans. However, there are 3 different versions. There's a regular, there's a medium, and there's a bold. So this is showing us what this is going to look like. Now, when we make these changes within a design, it like makes our readers feel as though they're seeing something different, right? Remember, we're trying to direct their eyeballs into certain places. It makes them feel as though like, oh, this is a different font, or they're calling my attention here into this space, when really it's just the same font. Okay, so rule of thumb, I would say stick to like 2 fonts within any one design. 3 is starting to stretch it. 4 is way too much, right? Then our eyeballs get all squirrely and we're like, what is happening here? We start focusing on like the font differences rather than the actual important content that you want people to see. So 2, I think, is the sweet spot. 3 is a stretch. 4 is here be dragons. So try not to use too many. Okay, so take a time and go through this text box, change it up to any kind of font you want. If you were looking to kind of stick on the theme and you wanted to bring in some of these other ones, remember in that previous slide, they used Mr. Defoe and they used that Barlow condensed bold. So you could pull those in. You could select it and it will make that change for you, just like the way that I did. You could also hit this little arrow and just kind of tinker with the other options that are available to you.
If you hit change all, is it through the entire thing or just that slide?
Phenomenal question. So the question is basically, when I made this change to Barlow condensed bold for this text box, there is a pop-up down here in the bottom left that says, I'm changing a remo to Barlow condensed bold. Do you want to change all? This is across your entire design. So anytime that it sees a remo in your design, it will change to Barlow condensed bold across every single slide. So we have like 20 plus slides, 27 slides. So it will identify that font in all of them and make that change. This is an awesome feature, but it's also like a super powerful feature. So just be careful. If you are intending to just change this in a few locations, then you may not want to hit the change all. But this is a really nice time saver if you're trying to impact your entire design. This is something that I wish Google Slides had, just because like then you have to go in and you have to tinker and you have to change it on every single slide. Whereas with one click, we can do that here. Phenomenal question. Gold star. A for the day.
Go home.
That's right. Yep. Time to go home. Time to go home. You did it. Way to go. All right. So I'm going to hit my X again, just because I want to maximize my space here. And then this is still my little workstation, my workspace. Okay, let's talk about balance. Okay, this is slide 9. Okay, and balance is basically the weight and distribution for how we are moving things around our design. Okay, there are two basic principles of balance. One is symmetrical. So it's literally the thing that is happening on the left is also happening on the right. And then there is, how do I want to word this? Purposeful asymmetry. Okay. And that's the idea that, I have something on the top and I have something on the bottom corner of the opposite side to balance those. So if you're looking at the example, those three lines are representing words, right? So maybe it's a text box in the top left and the bottom right, and maybe it is some sort of media or image or something on the bottom left and on the top right, right? This is purposeful asymmetry. It's not like just willy-nilly on the page and your eye gets confused of where it's supposed to go. We like things that make sense. So symmetry is really nice. Purposeful asymmetry can also be really nice. So I'm going to move to slide 10, and we're going to move and rotate some of the items within our design. So we're going to create a symmetrical design by moving these shapes. You'll see we have this like balance scale here, but currently it is not balanced. So I'm just going to take one of my circles and drag it over here to the side for the time being. Okay, I'm also going to take this circle and drag it up for the time being, just so that it's out of the way, because the first thing I want to do is I want to balance my bar. So I'm going to select this little rectangle with just a click. And you'll notice there's that little purple box that appears when I'm hovering over something. That's basically letting you know, like, this is the item that you are about to select. So I did that here with my, my rectangle base. And then you'll notice that two buttons appear underneath it. The first is an upward facing arrow and a downward facing arrow that kind of create a little circle. And then the next is a compass. For items that are really small, like what we're looking at here, it may be beneficial to click on the compass if you are attempting to move this about your design. So if it's difficult to click on, know that you can always use your compass to make that happen. Okay, I'm going to bring this back into the center with my little triangle here. And I'm going to click on this other one. This is a rotational tool. So again, this is like upward facing arrow, downward facing arrow. And when you click and drag on it, you can change the angle to like balance your item. So you can see basically I'm searching for 0 degrees, right? I want this to be perfectly flat along my design. And then I noticed also when I did so that it kind of lost touch with my triangle. And so if I'm trying to make this look realistic, I at least want to bring that down to touch. Okay, and now that I have that in place, I can then place my circles back onto the base. This is a great time to talk about alignment. Once again, you'll notice that I know it's really small, but on my screen here, I have like a teeny tiny little purpley red dotted line on the very left side when I align this with the left side of my rectangle. Okay, that way I know that this is exactly on the edge, just like I want it. And this one is the same. I also see that these are balanced horizontally because I have those purple dotted lines all the way across my design as well. So I know that my little circles are in perfect alignment, and I know that my little balance bar is also in perfect alignment now as well. If you wanted to, now that we know that these two are balanced, you could select this circle. Remember, hit your shift key and select this other little circle. And then you can move this about your design. You could use this compass. You could click and drag. You could also just use your arrow keys. So what you can't see is me hitting my up arrow, and it's making these two look like they're floating. And then I'm going to bring them back down. The arrows are a really nice way to get things like really precise, especially if like you know that you need to just move like the teeniest, tiniest little bit. You can select an item and then use your arrows up or down to have those touch exactly the way that you want. So again, if I'm trying to make this look realistic, I'm going to drop it probably to about there, just so that they're barely touching. Another thing that I want to touch on while we're here is you see this word group. This is just like in Smart Notebook of old, of Google Slides. If you wanted to, you could group these two items. They then become one singular item that you can move about. So no longer do I have to hit my shift key. I can just click on one of these and move both of these circles at the same time. This is also going to affect my ability to use my little balancing, squirrely arrows. And so if you wanted to, you can make those changes as well until you get it up. But those are functioning as one group at the moment.
Still trying to figure out how to flatten out the bar.
Sure, no problem. So I'm going to take this, these circles up and out. Okay, and I did that so that I know that I could click specifically on the little rectangle. Okay, so when I am hovering over the little rectangle, I can see the purple bar around it.
Yeah.
So that when I select it, I know that I'm getting just the rectangle.
Okay.
Okay, from here, maybe yours looks like this, right? Because it was kind of wonky at the start. When I have just this item selected, I can click on the little arrows here that are appearing on the left, and then click and drag my mouse. I know it's a little bit more difficult on the trackpad. So what I would do is use 2 fingers if I were you. I would click with 1 finger.
Yeah.
Then I would do the arrow with the other. So 2 fingers on a trackpad is probably your best bet. I'm using a mouse, which makes it a little bit.
I was hung up on the compass. I really need to go on the other.
Perfect. Yep. Those 2 are working together. Okay. Next, let's talk about contrast. This is one of my biggest design pet peeves. I have 2 little ones at home, and we read a lot of children's stories. The people who are doing it well understand the power of contrast, right? I was reading a book last night. It was about the snowman. The kids were playing outside, or the animals were playing outside, and then all of a sudden it became night. But the publishers didn't change the color of the font. So it was black font on top of a really, really, really dark navy background. It was impossible to read. So think of the same as you are creating your designs for teachers, for students, for parents. We have to make things as easy to read as possible. Now, it's a little bit different as you're looking at mine here up on the screen if you're following along with me, because I think it has warped the colors. So I can actually read it up here, but if you're looking on your own screen, it's much more difficult to read, right? Those 2 colors are a little bit too close together, and it makes it really difficult to read that red on top of the blue. So we want to make sure that we're pulling in one of those alternate colors so that the letters are really popping. Okay, this is especially important if you're a person who you like to highlight things in an email because you're trying to call people's attention to it. Sometimes we use the really neon yellow or a neon green to get a black to pop, and it just doesn't have the effect that we think it should have. So we've talked about colors a little bit and how we can make those color changes. So on slide 12, let's put this into practice. So it says darken the background to improve the readability. We're really good at this. So all we have to do is click here on that square, right? That little light blue square. We have our color swatch that pops up. I'll click that little circle. And then you can find any color that you want. I would say test a few of them, right? So all I did was I clicked our shade of that gray, and that makes things pop really nicely. Our red in this case, same deal, works pretty nicely. If I tried to do our teal, now we're starting to stretch it a little bit. These are a little bit too close for my liking. There's this other shade that I work with here, right? So tinker around a little bit, see what you can see. How could you change the colors up? Let's say that you find a color that you really like for your background, but now all of a sudden it doesn't play nicely with the letters that are on the screen. Change them. We know how to do that. This is your workbook. So all you have to do in that case is click on the little text box. When your floating toolbar appears, which again, my computer is just lagging a little bit, so don't pay any attention to that. You can click on your little circle and you can select a different color, a more complementary color in this case, to make those changes. I came back to that original document where I sent you because Canva has a really nifty tool. This is their version of a color wheel. So this is just on the very next page. If you scroll down, I sent you here to start. This is the bottom of page 8. And I'm going to scroll past a couple other items that we're going to get to to the top of page 10 and then select this link. So this is the canva.com colors color wheel. And this is a really nice tool if you're trying to learn or understand how colors play nicely together. Or like if you're trying to come up with a new combination or maybe a new design for something, you can bring in different elements of color. So you could just click on any color you want within the circle. So you're like, wow, I really like the shade of orange. Orange is my favorite color. When you do this, it not only shows you the exact hex code, so like you could select this and then go into your design and then make those changes based on that color. So like if I wanted to come back to this one, let's say I select this box, I click my dot, I could paste that color into here. This is that exact shade of orange. And now I have like my favorite color, orange, as a part of this design. Okay, you could also look down below and they're bringing us into some color combination theory. So this is complementary colors. So because I have this shade of orange, it's telling me that a nice complement to that would be the shade of blue. You could also bring out some monochromatic matches. You could also bring out some analogous matches, right? Look like a Starburst pack, this one does. Some triadic matches, right? It's basically just showing you, if you like this color, these are some other colors that will play nicely with it. And as you maneuver your dot around, no matter how you do it, these colors are going to change and match, right? So in this one, I'm doing the tetradic color matches. As I am just clicking around on this little the big circle here, it is then impacting those colors down below to try and help you find those matches. Okay, so little drop downs here are really nice. If you find a palette that you like, you could choose export palette, and then that's going to save it along with like your underneath like your brand kit stuff, like for you to be able to use later. Or you could just hit create a graphic and it will use those colors in a different design. So a really nice way, a different way, a more interactive way that you can bring in elements of color. All right, next, let's talk grouping. Okay, our eyes like things that are simple, things that make sense. So as we think about the elements on our pages, it makes sense for us and for our readers to visually group items. Okay, we are trying to help our readers understand and see all the things that they need. So think about how you could organize a design to kind of build relationships with the items that are on your screen. So on slide 14, I can see an example here that's kind of willy-nilly, right? It says click and drag the elements to visually group. Let's think back a couple steps when we were talking about balance as well, right? Our eyes like things that are balanced. Balance and grouping are very similar. Those two are friends, they go together. So think about how you could drag these items around to create balance. There's no real like right or wrong way to do this. In the example GIF, it's showing you some different ways that you could go about doing this, but it's really up to you. So kind of tinker, click and drag, see how you like things. Maybe the font becomes too big and you want to slide it into a different way, or your text box rather, then you can do that too. So for me, in my example, I'm going to move that guy here. I think I'm going to move these words up. I'm going to balance these next to each other, right? I'm still using my little alignment bars. Okay, so I know that that one is in perfect balance. And maybe I want to kind of move this one just so that it's showing up here. Okay, I'm going to bring this box over. Again, I could be multi-selecting with my shift key, and I could be using my position here to align these two items. So maybe I want to look and see, no, it doesn't look right if it's centered. So maybe I'm going to do that here. All right, now you'll notice in my example, okay, there's still something kind of funky about this space, right? So I have this little circle with the word fashion going all the way around it. This isn't exactly what I was hoping for. Like in a perfect world, maybe I want to make this a little bit bigger, right? But there's still something a little funky about it. Maybe I want to see what it looks like with the word fashion behind the picture. So that means that I need to change the order that these items are appearing. So think about like pages in a notebook. Okay, the bottom page was really put in there first, right? Because that's why it is at the bottom. And then we are putting more and more pages on top. We're stacking these items. Your design works in the same exact way. So if you're creating something from scratch and you put a picture on your design first, and then you put something like this fashion circle on next, then your fashion circle is going to be the more prominent one that is like outward facing. So in this design, for this example, whether it makes sense or not, we're just going to go with it. I want to change this. So I'm going to select just my image. And then when I come up to position, I see some other buttons. We have been talking about align to page, but I want to come up top to these arrange buttons first. So you'll see forward, to front, backward, and to back. Okay, again, we use that paper analogy purposefully because that's what these little icons are showing us. So think about the order in which these items are appearing. I have my image selected and I want to bring that to the front. So I'm going to select to front, and you'll notice now that my little like fashion circle has gone to the back. It's gone behind it. So maybe for this design, this is the way that I wanted it to look. Maybe I want to change it up. Maybe I want to make this even bigger somehow and bring that down here, right? But it's coming up behind my image. It's not taking that center stage, for this design. Okay, so those are really important buttons. These are big time savers. This is also like a frustration-free button because often we look at something and we're like, wow, like I really wish that just, was behind this other one. I don't know how to do that. That's with these buttons here. So if I went to back, you'll notice that now it appears as though that image is gone, even though it's not. It's actually just hiding behind this little yellow square, right? So I'm going to hit my undo button and I'm going to bring that one out. Maybe I want these words to come back, so I'm going to move that circle to be in front of my image, and maybe I wanted something like this. Okay, so really nice, easy ways that you can use that position button to help yourself within your designs.
Advanced down at the bottom with the height. Are those the width and the height of the that picture there, that photo?
So this is when something is selected and I hit position.
Yeah.
Yep. So these items here, down below, this is the like advanced area. This is going to help you maneuver the picture. So think of our math classes back in the day and we had our X and our Y axes, right? That's essentially what this is working with here. So if you wanted to slide something over one way or the other, you could change up here. So let's say instead of 317, I wanted 350. Okay, so watch the image. You see how it just changed and it flexed, it became bigger. That's a way in which you could change up like the size to hit an exact pixel range. You could also do like this one here. Maybe I wanted it to be 1900 instead of 1785. And when you do that, then it shifts it across the page too. I would definitely call this an advanced feature. So you're probably not going to tinker too much in here, but it is the same thing as doing your click and your drag. Okay.
The reason why I asked is because when I tried to make those two photos the same size just by, using the corner, it didn't match up. Like I couldn't get the exact for both of them. So is there a way to do that?
Yeah, so let's pretend then that I wanted these two to match. These are great questions. So I'm going to get this one out of the way temporarily so we're looking at the same thing. You'll notice down here at the bottom, there's a little dot with a slider on it. This is going to allow you to zoom in and see things in your design in a much more precise way. So essentially the task is to make this one match the same size as this one. So if you wanted to, you could select this item here, and I'm going to zoom out just a little bit so you can see what I'm working with, right? And as I am working in the same design, I can drag this down, and now I get a little bit more precise because I'm so super zoomed in. I can see that purple line much better. Okay, so the idea here is if you want it to be an exact match, then you would want to do, across that way. And you would also want to take that from the bottom and make sure that your bottom is perfectly aligned. And now the two, my guess is the two are going to be like a perfect copy of each other. Okay, so when I can drag them over top of each other, and I can see that it basically hides the one. If I wanted to, I could take this one here, I could change it up and bring this one to the front. So position to front and drag it over top, and I can see that those two are the same size. Okay. All right, very, very good questions. All right, next. This is another problem that I have, something that takes some practice and takes some time within your designs. It is totally okay to have white space in your design. Okay, it is actually nice to bring in. You don't have to have like stuff everywhere, or just because you have the space doesn't mean that you have to fill it. So I always say, like, embrace the white space, right? Use that clear space so that it really pops off. Your designs really pop off. So in our example here on slide 16, we can see some words that are overlapping our like cityscape, and like it looks fine, but there's a much better way that we could make this happen. So if we wanted to, we could select this text box, and then we could change up the font size. So again, I can come up here, I can change this to exactly 64, and now it brings that part up. Okay, so this is much more pleasing to look at. You are going to be tempted to say, oh, there's space in between these two. Maybe I want to make this a little bit bigger, right? But every time I bring those two items closer, then it kind of clutters up our design a little bit more. So I would tell you, try your best to embrace that white space, embrace the like actual design of it all, and kind of get comfortable in that space. All right, we talked about fonts just a moment ago. Okay, finding the right font can be a ton of fun, but it can also be another big rabbit hole that is going to consume all of your time. So remember, when it comes to fonts, if you're trying to use two together, opposites attract. So you'll notice in some of our examples here, this one here, we have a really nice bold, right, for the word strong. And then this really nice thin font as well. So that's that word coffee, right? That's really nice to look at. We can see a mix of a sans and a serif font up here in this design. We see this one, which is really narrow, right? We get the impression like the word high is nice and stretched, like to actually help us like to feel that this is something higher than what it is. So fonts matter. Bless you. Fonts matter, and they're really fun to work with. Just try your best to, again, keep those as limited as possible. I would say 2 is the sweet spot. 3 is a little bit of a stretch. So use those different variations within. Now, for this design, it says to try, what is that, Saphira or Saphira March. Try to look for that one. But what I want to call your attention to with this one is, let's say that we wanted to bring in an all new font, like just from scratch. You could choose this text area over here. And actually, I'm going to just do this. You could choose that area over here where it says text to bring in a new text box. And you could scroll down to this area here called font combinations. These have been created by Canva to do some of those like opposites attract ideas. So you'll see these are all ready and waiting for you to use within your design. We see a lot of really great examples of some different layouts of how you could arrange things on your page. So for this example, instead of using that Saphira March font, maybe I want to find something within here that kind of makes me think yoga. Maybe makes me think that this is something different, right? So just as an example, maybe let's do this guy here. So win-win, right? It pops up onto my screen, and now because it's here, I can change it. So all I have to do is double click over the words win, and maybe I want to make this yoga in big letters, and down below, maybe I want to make that class. And now I have this as a part of my design. Okay, just for my purposes, you don't have to do this, but for my purposes, I'm going to move this together and I'm gonna erase this, just so that way this is kind of popping out a little bit more for us. Because we're talking about things being like purposefully opposite, okay? I really like the way that a lot of these are laid out. So we see like in this example here, the free shipping, there's some space in between the two. Okay, so shipping is not as wide as the word free. We can see this win-win is kind of offset. You can purposefully make these things happen as well. So as I click on this text box, I have this as a group. Okay, these are two grouped fonts together to act as one object. But for my example here, maybe I want the word class to be shoved over to the right instead of like kind of center right-ish on the word yoga. And so what I want to do is ungroup these. And then maybe I want to align these. So let's then select this one, hit my shift key, select the word yoga. You can see that these two are left aligned. That's why these bars are appearing the way that they are, right? Those are in a perfect line. I'm going to hit position, and now I'm going to do right. Okay, so as I'm looking at this, okay, now for some reason my word class isn't all the way over to the right. I could come up here in my floating toolbar, and there's a different alignment bar here as well. This is the one that we're really familiar with when it comes to like docs and like slides, some of your Microsoft products as well. When you click this, it's going to jump your letters around your screen a little bit. Okay, so this is my right alignment, this is my center alignment, this is my left alignment. And really all it's doing is impacting the word inside of that text box. It's not impacting it in terms of like its relation to the word yoga, because that's not what I asked for it to do. I'm only working with the word class. So maybe in this example, I want it to be like aligned with that A, right? So I can come up here and instead of yoga being centered, I'm going to shove yoga to the right. And now I know that these two are aligned perfectly on the right side. Okay, you can tinker with this as well. Let's say that because this is a like italicized font, okay, and I know that because up top here it says italics and it's bolded, right? You could take that off and it goes back to normal. But it kind of looks like it doesn't match up because this A is only slightly askew and the S looks like it's farther over to the right than what the A is actually doing. You could click just this little text box, and now I'm going to use the arrow key on my keyboard until I get it into a place that it like visually looks like it is the same. Okay, so even though I could use my alignment bars, I could also just use my arrow keys to kind of make those match up a little bit better. Okay, there are tons and tons and tons of really fun font combinations. This is a really great opportunity to just kind of like look and see what has been created for you, because you don't have to create anything from scratch within Canva. All right, if you are interested in some more practice, which we're going to skip this for the time being, here's another example of some different things that you could do to work with some fonts, to work with some frames here in this case as well. But we are going to move on, and then we're going to take a real quick break here in just a few minutes as well. I know we're just passing about an hour here together with an hour to go. All right, color basics. We talked about this when we talked about our color wheel, so we're not going to hammer this too much. We see our color schemes, our complementary, our monochrome, our analogous, and our triadic. We have that color wheel to help us. But what is nice about Canva is that it looks for the elements of our design, and it will extract those colors for you. So by this, I mean, it has the capability of looking at this picture and saying, this is exact shade of blue that's used. This is the exact shade of the purple hat. She's wearing like a different shade of like light blue, dark blue shirt. It will pull all of those in. So to do this, we can do this in a couple different ways. These squares down here in the bottom, these are independent, right? So what I'm going to do is click on one of them, and I want to change the color, which is like this gray color, to something else from my image. This is just practice. So I'm going to select this little square. I'm going to select my little color swatch up in the top. Okay, that has a saved like color search from me from before. And then I'm going to scroll down. You'll notice that Canva has identified the colors of this photo. So it's saying basically, hey, in this photo, we see this shade of teal and this shade of dark green and this shade of pink. There's also this light pink that is a part of it. And then this kind of like brownie looking color in here as well. So that's a really nice, easy way that you can pull in other colors. So let's say like we wanted a similar font. So up top for the word play, I could select play. I could select this letter A to change the color of my font, and then scroll down where I see that same picture. And now maybe I want like that shade of pink as the header color. I didn't have to do like any of the guesswork because it's already done that for me. It's already found the colors within this picture. So that's why I'm seeing it here. You could also come to the circle here, and I'm going to change this back up to that little square. That way I'm doing the same thing you guys are. You could hit this add a new color button. And when you do so, you get the ability to like type in a different code if you wanted to. You could also click and drag this little circle around until you get to a particular color that you're after. You could also use this thing, and this is called an eyedropper. Okay, the eyedropper is going to allow you to click on an image and extract that color out. So basically, when you hit this eyedropper, you then get like this little magnifying glass looking thing, and it is looking across my entire design, like basically saying, oh, you can't see it as it's floating. This is happening, I promise. Do it for yourself on your screen. Hit the little circle and then choose the eyedropper and then hover over your image. Okay, you should see like a little pixelated set of like squares on your screen. Okay, so again, to do that, I'll go through the steps one more time. I have my little box selected. I've hit my little color swatch up in the top. I've selected this circle with a plus sign. It's like the rainbow button with the plus sign. And then I'm choosing this eyedropper down here in the corner. Okay, from there, then I can hover over anything I want. Like maybe I want this girl's hat. And when I select it, it's then going to change that item that I was just on to the color that I just selected with my little eyedropper. That is the exact same thing as if I went down into my search colors and found that here. Another thing that I want you to be mindful of, down in the bottom, it says change all. You can change the colors across your entire design in one click. So anytime it sees that exact shade of gray that we were using before, when I hit change all, it will change each of those to that same color. So if that gray was used elsewhere in my design, which in this case it was on these two for sure, then it's going to change that up. Again, with a little undo, then it can go back. You have all of the color swatches for our office. You have all the color swatches for every district that we work with here for the ESC as well. So know that you have those. That's essentially what this activity is doing here, is trying to build out a color palette very similar to the ones that we have. All right, when we are thinking about on-brand imagery, okay, it basically says like, do your images look unified? Meaning, do they go together? Consistency helps to communicate your brand and identity clearly. We have the ability here to like put out all kinds of really wonderful content. But one of the things that that I see like is tripping people up as they're doing their designs is when they pull in a picture or when they pull in an image, they are pulling in like a JPEG that has a white background around it. Okay, so like I think like clip art. If I wanted to bring something in, like I know in an example we were doing yesterday with like a wreath, let's say we wanted to bring in a wreath to our image, and we can actually go through and we'll do this here. So let's do Christmas this wreath. You don't have to do this at your seat. But as I bring in my images, let's say that this is the wreath that I wanted to bring in, right? I can right click on this and save this image. It's going to save it, in this case, as like a WebP file. So I'm going to save this, and then I'm going to come back into my design here just so that you can kind of see the same thing I'm seeing. And then we're going to take a moment for the uploads button. So over here on the far left-hand side, hey Marty, over on the left-hand side, you could hit uploads. And then this is going to like allow you to then either click and drag an image in, or you could choose this purple upload files button. So when you select it, this is that web file that I just pulled in, and then it's going to bring that wreath. I could just click this once and it brings that wreath into my picture. I could also click and drag from over there and bring it into my image as well. Two different ways to do the same exact thing. But you'll notice, like, I really like this wreath, but it still has that like wooden background around it. Imagine too, like all the images that we've done that have just the white background around it too. Okay, there's a really nifty button in here that's called BG Remover. It is so popular and so wonderful that they have put it into our floating toolbar across the top so that we don't have to search for it. And that is located here. Okay, when you hit BG Remover, it looks at this image. It identifies like what is the thing that is trying to be shared, or like what is the prominent item here in this design. And then it eliminates the background. So you'll see no longer do I have that like wood grain behind it. I only have the wreath. And so now, like for whatever reason, let's say that I wanted this to be, over top of this space, then I could do this here. And now it has no background to it. When you are doing your image searches in Google, okay, there are 3 letters that will be your friend. Let's say I want to do my Christmas wreath. I could do Christmas wreath and then type in the letters PNG. PNG is a different file type. Okay, these are used by designers because they naturally have no back to them. Okay, that's like the main reason why a person would want to use a PNG as opposed to like a JPG or a JPEG, which is probably one that you're pretty familiar with. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to find one here that is an actual PNG, just for our own sake here. And while I'm looking at these images, I'm looking for this pixelated background. I know that it shows up well on mine and it looks like it's doing okay on the screen there, but this pixelated background basically tells me that this is just the wreath itself. Okay, I'm going to right click, I'm going to save this image. I can see that this is a PNG image file type, which is really great. That's exactly what I was looking for. And then I can come back into my design, and I'm going to do this a different way this time. So before I clicked upload files, this time you can't see it on my screen because the way I'm sharing it, I'm hitting my my download button that's on the very, very top where Chroma is. And I'm going to click and drag into my area and let go. And then here is that wreath that I had. So it's basically just a bypass of going through the uploads button, upload file, and then finding it. It's just a click and a drag. So now I have 2 nice little Christmas wreaths that I could then put into my image. Okay. One other thing that I want you to be mindful of, let's say that for whatever reason, I wanted to have Marty's face appear in one of these spaces. Okay, these are all little individual squares, right, that have been formatted already. So I could click and drag Marty's face over into my image. And when I hover over any one of these squares, it's basically saying, oh, I bet this person wants to drop this image over top of what is already there to create like a new space. So now instead of like that little cityscape background, now I have Marty here. This is one of me and the actual designer, my wife here, right? So I'm going to pop her and I into this space. But this is really important. As I do so, you'll notice that it's cutting off the top of my head. Not a problem because nobody's looking at me in this picture anyway. But if I wanted to change this and format it, I could. With a double click, okay, I'm going to impact just this image. So you'll see now over on the left side of my screen, I get some like cropping features. I also can just click and drag down until you see my head. Now, this picture is also somewhat small. So maybe I wanted to like bring the focus of us to be a little bit more prominent. When this has been double clicked, I can click on this purple dot and drag up and then drag ourselves down. So now basically I've just zoomed in on the two of us so that you're actually seeing our faces instead of them being a little bit smaller. Okay, when you are done, you could either click off of it into this empty space, or you could hit done, and then it basically saves that change. So like if this were a real design, I wouldn't use this picture, and I definitely wouldn't, do this crop because it makes it look like she has no body. But you get the idea. Okay. Okay, so with a click and a drag, you can bring those items over. Very, very simple, very easy to use. When we are talking about pictures, when we're talking about graphics, Canva is also like a very literal design tool. So if you wanted to, you could select any one of these items, right? This is functioning as a group at the moment. But what I want to do is I want to select just this item here, right? Just this top one. And in the floating toolbar, go up to the word edit. Okay, this is where, if you're like a social media person, you're probably familiar with the term filters. This is where you can put different filters onto the photos that you have brought in. So if you go down below, I see the word filters here. I also see effects. We'll click on a few of those while we're here too. But right now I just want to look at filters. So when you click see all, this is going to show every filter that is available to you within Canva. Okay, again, social media people might be familiar with some of the words that are on here. We see things like latte. This is going to make that like a little bit of like a brownish hue. This one here is Capri. It's changing it up. There's Bali. As you make your way down, there are tons and tons of different filters that you could put into this background little cityscape. Okay, the idea is we have this grid that we're working with. So ideally, we want the same filter on all of these images. It's going to look really weird as it does now if we have this like Miami background, right? That's like full color. And we have this as like our like more monochrome. We have Marty in what looks to be like that picture was taken in 1980. He's never had it updated. So that one is there. Mine looks a little bit different too, right? So we want these to all be consistent. So let's say that, I wanted to impact change on a couple of them, then I could select those and then come up to edit and just make sure that I have the same filter. So like if I like fresco on one, then I need to make sure that each of these images is then going to have that fresco background. Okay, so a really fun opportunity, again, to bring like synergy and commonality to your entire design. All right, another fun thing that we can do here is change up colors to be a little bit more specific as we're thinking about the effects that we can put onto these images. So I currently have this, I don't know why, but it looks like Miami to me. So I have this Miami one selected. And underneath effects, there are some different tools that I can use, such as shadows. That's going to put like a drop shadow behind our image, such as duotone, where it's going to change an image to basically a 2-color scheme. So when you select something like duotone, then it takes you behind the scenes of your design to where you can make it now like, I want it to be cherry, or I want it to be like the sea blue color, or more of like a pastel swatch, right? I'm impacting the look of this image with just 2 clicks here. And again, it could be whatever you want it to be. You could also do custom. And this is how I do like black and white images as well. Like if I have our logo, I'll walk through the motions with our logo. And I'm also going to create a new slide in here too. So again, this is something that you don't have to do. I just want you to be mindful that it's a thing that you could do. Since we're working in slides, I'll take a beat here to show you what I'm doing. I want to add another slide. So I'm just going to hit this plus sign that appears when I'm hovering in between 2 slides. And that's going to create a blank for me. In my uploads, I have our logos. You have that in your brand kit as well. So all of the logos that we use here at the ESC, those are all in your brand kit that you could pull into a design if you wanted to. Let's say that I wanted to change the color scheme of like the ESC's primary logo. So I'm going to find that. I know I have that down here, and I'm going to click to add that to my design. So maybe I want, actually, let's just do this. Let's change this up to make it purposefully hard to look at. Let's do like that one. Okay. So we were talking about our contrast. This is not a good contrast for our logo because it makes it really difficult to see our letters. So what you could do, once this image has been selected, you can go to edit. You can go to that duotone. And then we're going to change these colors to custom. And I'm going to make both of these white. Okay, so I'm going to change the highlights to white. I'm going to change the shadows to white. And now I have a white version of our logo. If I wanted to, I could just lay these over top of each other to get a like white font version. So what I did was I selected this image and now I'm basically cropping on the fly. So I can select this little bar and scroll down and notice how like I've just gotten rid of the like the top part of the apple. When I scroll over to the right from left to right, now I just have our words in perfect white font, right? Very simple. I can come back over into my uploads area and now basically do that same thing, you know, kind of in reverse. So I'm going to bring in my logo here. I go too far, went too far. Okay, I'm going to bring in this logo and then I'm going to lay my white letters on top of the black letters to make it look as though this is one singular design. Okay, so it's going to be something kind of similar to this. Let's shrink this down a little bit more. Okay, so that's pretty close to what I want. And now I'm going to use my hierarchy, right? We were talking about positions before, and I'm going to bring those white letters to the front. And so that's going to hide those black letters. And now I basically have a white text version of that same thing. Okay, there are some other really fun doodads that we can do with inside a design. And I would like to show a couple of those to you here and now. So let's say that on this logo, I didn't want the words at all. Let's say that I just wanted the just this like curly part of the apple and that part of the design. When I select this image, I can go to edit, okay, just like what we've been doing. And I see some, what they call their Magic Studio tools. Okay, these are AI tools that work directly here within Canva. We've done that BG remover one already. That's really slick. Let that be your friend. It's really fun to use. This next one here is called Magic Eraser. So what you can do is you can come into an image and then you can get rid of text just by like coloring over top of it. So I'm going to change my brush size to be a little bit bigger. And with a click and drag over this logo, I'm basically just going to paint the letters. Okay, so I'm going to paint all of these. And then when I'm done, I can hit erase. And it's going to eliminate those letters from my design. Okay, so now all I have is like the little apple. And when I come back over to my design, I see I missed that part down below here. So if I were trying to fix that, I would want to make sure that I got rid of that. But it's actually kind of nice to see like I physically got rid of different things from my design. Okay, which is really cool. Now there are some other tools that you can use here too. Let's see. I'm going to go back to this lady in this image here, and I'm going to go to edit, and I'm going to select Magic Grab. Okay, again, another AI tool waiting for us. It looks at this image and it basically says like, okay, here are some of the elements that are in this picture. It's trying to identify them all. What it has done is identified that like this lady with the hat is a different element. And so when I select her and select grab, then this is going to make this part of the image independent from the rest of it. So now it has basically created two separate images, one in our example here with just that background, and one with this like floating head with a hat on that I could put somewhere else if I wanted to. Like maybe I know that I want this person, but not on that background. And maybe I want to pull her into a different image. I could use like my same control shortcuts. So like Control X, Control C, Control V, our copy, our cut, and our paste. I could also right click on something, and then I get all of those features as well. From here, let's say that I wanted to, cut this thing out. So Control X, come over into my design, Control V, and now just that person with that hat is a part of my design. Okay, all I did was I clicked the button and the AI took care of the rest of it, which is really, really slick. There are some other fun things that we can do as well. So let me go back to our original image. I think I need to go back one more step. There we go. When I go to edit, then I get some other AI tools that I can do in just the same way as Magic Grab. There's also like grab text. So if you know that you have a like an image such as this, and for whatever reason you wanted the word complementary out of this, that's what Magic like text can do for you, is you can pull that out of your image. So that's really nice. We also have a couple others that I'll show you while we're here. This one here is called Magic Edit. Magic Edit allows you to change something in the picture using a prompt. So I'm going to do click. And let's say for whatever reason, I wanted this to be a top hat. So I can say change pink hat to top hat, and we'll see what it gives us. It's probably going to mess it up and it'll be real silly, but it will be fun nonetheless. So basically, this is a tool that is getting better and better. It identifies the objects in the picture and then uses AI to modify. And we can see some really silly examples over here of it trying to get it right. But as with a lot of our generative AI tools, it just is kind of missing the mark at the moment. So if you get something that you don't like, then you can hit generate again, and you'll get different options. I found this is really easy, or it works best with like things that are really prominent. So let's say that there's a picture of like a person holding some roses, and you wanted them to be holding a hockey stick instead. It makes those flips much better than changing the color of the hat, as we see here in this example. Okay. All right. So that was what I would consider to be like our level one clicks, our level one maneuvers, with also talking about some different design things. This is on the bottom of page 8. If you are not a part of our team yet, so our ESC team, make sure that you have clicked this link here to join our team. That's going to give you access to the brand kits that I have created for us. Patty, I see your question in the chat too. For the most part, those are going to appear when you're working inside of a design. So let's say that I wanted to, let me find a good one. Let's say that I wanted to change this color here. I could hit my little color swatch. Oh, biscuits. Here we go. Change it up. Thanks, Joey. I'm a Bluey watcher. Does anybody else watch Bluey? That's our curse in the house. We say biscuits on everything. So when you select this, then you can come down here. You'll see your different brand kits. And again, if you're a part of our team, I have preloaded those. I have 2 on this account, are just ESC default stuff. And then I did some stuff in a different space that I was just calling an arts and culture kit. That's where you can build your own personal brand kit as well. But for our purposes, that will be there. And then basically, in order for you to get like the free premium access, I go in and make you a teacher once you've joined our team. And then I'll do that once we're done on the call here today, if you are just joining. All right. For our level 1, for like where I want to go for new stuff, we have maxed out our time for today. We've maxed out our activities. I'm not trying to blow anyone's brain. What I want you to know is that I have a level 2 version of the same exact thing that we just did. So if you're a person who's like, I knew everything that he just said and he's wasted 90 minutes of my day, there's a level 2 workbook that works in a very similar way. All you have to do is click level 2. It's going to take you to that same screen where you'll use that template, create a version for yourself. And then this is going to walk you through what I would consider to be some more like advanced skills. So this is things like, pulling in YouTube videos. These are things like pulling in additional elements, and just working with things in a little bit of a different way. So same premise, I give you what to do over here on the left, and then you actually make that thing happen over here on the right. Should be simple follow along for you, again, so that we don't break our brains, especially heading into our holiday break. We are not going to cover that. When you come to Canva in the future, this is just canva.com. If you're a person who likes bookmarks, I would just bookmark this and let it live up in your bookmarks bar. And then with a single click, then you can come back to that screen very easily.
How do you feel about like using the app?
The app is great. So it works in almost identical fashion to the web version that we're using here. Joey has been using it like literally in the moment this fall, like for cross country, and is creating really wonderful designs. You want to talk about that a little bit, Joey?
Yeah, it works just like the web. I mean, when you're clicking and dragging, you can use your touch screen to click and drag. So like I was getting a picture of our kids, so you have to qualify to regionals, removing the background on the fly. And I had like a template set up. I just dragged it right in and it's posted on Instagram, like from the bus. So
Yeah, because I want to start using this instead of like, I have like 5 different places I'll use things and then I have to like put it all together. So it's nice that you could just like, that's the part of Canva I don't know.
So what's nice about this too is like you get all of the bells and whistles for free because you're an educator, but that doesn't mean that like you can't use this to like make a party invite or do your Christmas card or whatever you can possibly think of. Carol, you already made that happen. Good. So like take advantage of your access to all of the tools so that, you can use them elsewhere, use them in your personal life too, now that we know the skills. Okay. When you come to Canva, your screen is going to look something very similar to this. And so I could scroll down forever and ever and ever and see all of the designs that I've done. I think I'm up to like 5,000 and some at this point. There's a lot. Over on the left-hand side, we see things like the word projects. This is where you can create an experience very similar to your Google Drive. So where it says folders, you can create new folders within here and you can organize your things. So what you're looking at is basically like my folder combinations. You can choose to create your own and then assign your work to those as well. I'm going to start here on home. I want you to be mindful that up in the very top, there is a search bar. It says search your content and Canvas. So let's say that you wanted to do a newsletter. That's what you were coming to Canva for. You do not have to create anything from scratch. In fact, I would tell you, do not try to create anything from scratch. A part of the benefit of coming to a product like Canva is that design nerds from around the world have already created things for you that you can just manipulate, like change a color, change a font, and you're already cooking. So what I want to do is type in the word newsletter. Up in that top search bar, you can type in anything you want to. Like if you came here with a purpose, like you know that you wanted to do something. I'm just going to type in newsletter. It's going to show me any newsletters that I have done previously. If you're new to Canva, you're not going to see anything in there, but you're also going to see the template area within Canva. So basically it is saying that within Canva templates, there are 5,004 examples that I could borrow, make my own copy of basically, and then put that into a design. So let's say that we want to do this one because we're coming into winter. All right, I see these little snowflakes. When you click on it, it's basically showing you this is what this design is going to look like. Here is, the way that it's laid out. Here's its actual size, like against this ruler. So it's just letting you know, like this is a standard piece of paper. It is 8.5 by 11. I can see that up here in this little pop-up too. If you want to, you can just hit customize this template, and then it makes a version of that inside of your Canva work. I want you to be mindful that Canva is also like a production product. So you're going to see things like over here on the left, where it says basically, we can totally print this thing for you. How many copies do you want? Just hit continue. You would put in your card, you would purchase this. So like if you're making like party invites and you wanted to just print them all through Canva, this is how you could do that too. It already has your design. It already has all the specs and all the colors and everything. You just hit continue. You would put in your card information and ta-da, you've just purchased those. Very similar to like Shutterfly, if you're familiar with that. Okay. We do not want to use that for this example. So I'm going to hit my X, and now I have the ability to work with this newsletter. You'll see by default up in the top, it just says Winter Classroom Education Newsletter in blue and white, right? It's just a dummy name. So I'm going to click up here and I'm going to change this to something like Classroom Newsletter. And maybe I'm getting this ready for January. Okay, so Classroom Newsletter January. To me, it's important to call things like more specific names, because then you can search for it later based on those names. So if you call things newsletter, then that's a really nice, easy way that you can come back and find them. Everything that we see here in this example is customizable. So just because they use this font, which this is called Lancelot, just because they use Lancelot does not mean that you also have to use Lancelot. You could select it, and then we already talked about font a couple different times. You can change this up to be whatever font you want. So maybe I like this font a little bit better, but now it's too close to that December 2024. So maybe you bring that up with just a click and a drag. Maybe December 2024 is a little too small for this design. So I want to bring this up in size a little bit now, and maybe bring that up a little bit further. Maybe the shade of blue isn't exactly what I was hoping for. So you can come in and click on any one of these little boxes, hit your little circle. Maybe I want it to be like our shade of blue. Because I'm impacting only this one page, I can hit change all. And now all of those boxes are going to be changed with that exact shade, which is really nice. Okay, so this is really your opportunity to manipulate and to see. Let's say that for whatever reason, you don't need 3 boxes down here on the right. No problem, just get rid of this content. So I'm going to click on each of these. I'm hitting the delete key on my keyboard. You could also hit the trash can that pops up here as well. Okay, and now maybe I just want to organize these in a different way. With a click and drag, I can select multiple items at once. Okay, and then maybe I just pull these down. You'll notice though that like this little snowflake is coming with me because it's a part of what I just clicked and dragged. So just be mindful that when you do that kind of a move, a click and drag, just make sure that you're only getting the things that you want. Okay, let's say though that like you wish that this was just expanded. So you could click and drag over here. I could send these up to the top to be aligned like with this other one. Okay. And for time's sake, we're just going to call that aligned. Maybe I wanted this one here to be back up to be aligned again. And again, for time's sake, we're just going to call that aligned. I can then click on just this white box, use my bar, and pull it down. So now I'm expanding the size of this box. Maybe I really like the way that this looks now. So I'm going to get rid of this one and then use another really fancy keyboard shortcut that I hope you remember, Control D, as in duplicate. And so that just made a different version of all of the same stuff that I had just clicked. So Control D is your friend. That will duplicate the item. That is the same keystroke for like Google as well. So if you're working in slides and you want to have an exact copy of something, just hit Control D and then you'll duplicate that. And so let's say in this one, I'm going to align that. And now my design is ready to go. Okay. Everything we see is customizable. Remember those skills that we learned in our first section, and you'll be good to go. Now, from here, let's say that we have created something and we want to export it. So this is, Kathy had a question in the chat let's say that this was just like an image or something that we wanted to put somewhere else. Well, what do we do with it now? How do we get it in front of eyeballs? When you go over to share, think of this in the same way as you do your like Google share button, like when you're working within Drive. Okay, within share, we get a couple different options. This top one here says add people, groups, or your class. This is the same thing that you would do within your Google Drive. You already know how to do this. You would just type in the person's name or type in their like email. When I hit share, then he's going to get edit access on this item. I could also change that to a can comment, can view, the exact same thing as what we've been doing here within our Google work. You could also change where it says collaboration link, okay, to anyone with the link has access. So in this case, what I just changed is if I were to share this link with you, you could edit this same item. And anyone else who has that link would be editing this same exact item. Typically, that's not how you want to share things out. So I would tell you that if you change this up, anyone can view is probably your best bet, because then a person could make their own copy of that item.
But they would be editing it in Canva or, yeah.
Yep, editing in Canva. So they would have to have their own account to come on here and then make those changes. Okay, to export something else out in a different way, such as like Kathy was asking, like in a s'more, or you wanted to pull something into a different image or somewhere else that you're working online, you would want to hit the word download. Okay, so from the start, it's share, download, and then that brings up this menu for us where we can make some choices. So the first choice we have to make is, what do we want this file to become? In our example, I'm working in a newsletter, so maybe I want this to be a PDF, okay? So what I could do is choose PDF standard, PDF print, and then it's going to save that item for me as a PDF. Let's say that this is an image, so let's play pretend. Let's say that this is an image. I could select JPEG, and that's just our like standard image file. So when I choose download, it's going to go into my downloads area, which again, I can't show you because the way that the screen is being shared at the moment, but it's going to go live up there. And then I can organize it in the rest of my computer files, just like you would with any other item. We talked about the difference between a JPEG and a PNG. PNGs typically have no back, or like I'm purposefully creating this so that there's nothing behind the thing that I'm creating. There is absolutely no harm in saving this as a PNG, even if you don't care if there's a background to the item or not. PNGs and JPEGs are really good, almost identical image files, except if you don't want there to be something behind, like think of our wreath example, then that could be an example there of why you will want to use a PNG. Okay. We also see SVG. So this is for like really big design elements. Like if you're sending this out like for print, then that could be an option for you there. We also get video. That is what I would consider to be a more advanced skill, something that we're not talking about today, but there are video templates in here as well. You change a few things up and ta-da, there's a video waiting for you that has music and animations and every other thing already baked in. You could do GIFs as well if you want to. I'm a GIF person. You may be a GIF person. You're incorrect, but you could do that. So you could save these out as GIFs as well. Let's say that I wanted to, and Kathy, this is going to your question here too about like, is it possible to animate items? Maybe in my search elements, I want to do something like falling snow. Okay, so within my graphics here, maybe I see some, and I'm not sure how well that's popping up on the screen here. You can see like some of the snow falling here. And I'm going to use this one just so that it's kind of calling out, even though it's not really snow, it's this. So when you bring in something that's moving, then you would want to export your item or download your item using something like either an MP4 video or the GIF so that that motion is actually happening. Because if I were to save this as a JPEG, that is flat, that's just an image. If I save it as a PNG, it's just flat. It's only the image. We would need a GIF or we would need an MP4 file in order to see that animation happening. Okay, everybody with me there? Did I lose you? Okay, so if you have movement and you want to retain that movement, then you would want to go to share, download, change it either to MP4 video or to GIF.
SVG does animations too.
It can, I think
But
for the most part, for like what we're using, you're probably searching for one of those two. Now, there are other ways that we can animate things as well. So let's say that for whatever reason, I wanted to animate the words across the top here, this classroom newsletter. When you select animate, it brings up different options for us. So this is going to treat it just like a typewriter, like it's typing out my thing. Here's one that's ascend, so my letters are popping up. These, I would say, you're probably looking to use if you were doing something like this, like that workbook that we were just using, like your slides. If you want to animate things in your slides, it would make more sense to do those for something, do your animations for something like that than it does like a document. Like it doesn't really make sense to animate a document, but that's a thing that you could do. And then you can also animate the transitions within slides. So I showed you a little bit ago how you can add a page. You could also choose this little button here where it says add transition. And then you can add a transition into that space. So let me do it one more time, add transition. It brings up this different menu, and then it will show you how that transition is going to appear as you're going from one slide to the next. Okay, which is really cool. This one here is probably my favorite. It's called Flow. It basically grabs each individual item and pretends that it's like independent as it goes from one slide to the next. And I think it just makes it look really cool and kind of like futuristic, pulls people's eyeballs across. So if that's a thing that you wanted to add, then that might be a good place for it. All right, we talked a little bit about like just how to find something. We talked about how to download that item and share it elsewhere, just like what you would every other file type. Know that you can do basically anything you can possibly think within Canva. Now, as a helper, if you scroll down and make your way to page 9, okay, there's a whole teacher section in here where like there are legitimate lessons that are in here ready to go for teachers to teach with their kids. But what I wanted to give you access to is what I call like my template gallery, to just show you some examples of what could be done within Canva. So if you look, I've just typed in some words and these are all links. This is the exact same thing as if I came to Canva and I typed in that little top search bar. So I'm gonna pull over here for a second. Just the same way as like we typed in the word newsletter and got 5,000 different newsletter templates. That's the exact same thing as this. So let's say that I wanted to do certificates, okay? I could, like if you want to, you can save this. I'm not telling you what to do, but you could click certificates. And then when you come to that link, here are a bunch of certificates that are ready to go for you. It's the exact same thing as typing certificate up in the top search bar. Exactly the same. I just gave you a link to it, okay? So again, same thing from here. I can click on any one of these. I look at it and say, this looks great. This is the thing that I want. I could customize this template and then come in and change up all the colors, change up the fonts, add student names if I wanted to, do all those kinds of things in here as well. But I thought it would be helpful if we just kind of compiled everything into one nice space. This isn't the, like this list isn't exclusive. There are tons and tons and tons of other things that you can do within Canva. But as I was sitting down to think like, what would a teacher or what would a person that is working in schools be creating? It was mostly the things that were in this table. So a lot to pull from. If you have been working with us here the last almost 2 hours and your brain is fried and you go back to your computer and you're like, I don't remember what these buttons do. I tried to give you like a little helpful explainer of like what the like little logos on the left-hand side of the screen are. And so all I did was like, I just took little screenshot pictures of those items over here and I put them into this little table on that document. So this is just like a nice little quick reference guide for you. I want you to know that like, obviously we're working with a design tool. So they do like what I would call semi-regular updates to the look of Canva. So this is what these logos look like today. Tomorrow, the upload may look like a different cloud with a different arrow. They're never going to be like big significant changes, but they may be little slight changes, or the colors might be slightly different. They're not going to change something like super drastic and throw everybody off. All right, other fun things that I want you to know. We talked about the Canva color wheel. If you're a person who's interested in videos, know that videos are on here. Some like tutorials for you within their design school. I wanted you to have those. And then if you are using Canva for presentations, there's some really fun doodads that you can do in addition. That's basically what we were working with here. This is just a slide deck, a Canva slide deck. And these are like really robust also. So like think about the templates or template galleries where you may go to find, different templates so that you can like pull them into a Google Slides. You can do that same thing here in Canva. You could even just launch your presentation from Canva, either using the present button that's up here in the top, or you can hit the little arrow button down here in the bottom corner. It says present full screen. So when you select that, then it brings this whole thing up as full screen. And then using your arrow keys, you can kind of navigate around from slide to slide. The shortcuts that are available in the doc that I wanted you to know about are kind of fun. They're very silly, but they're very fun. So as we're looking at our document here, if you just type any one of these single keys, then it will do like the animation that's described, or it will pull up a timer for you. So I'm going to do this one here. If you do like the number 3 while you are sharing, you'll see you instantly get a 3-minute timer up in the corner. So like when we took our break, I could have just, opened this up as a whole slide. Maybe we were working with this, hit the number 3, and instantly we're doing a 3-minute timer ready to go for all of us. When you hit the little minus sign, it will go away. You also see the ability to adjust the timer and to bring in some music as well. That's what the little sign is there. I'm going to show you these. M is a mic drop, C is for confetti rain, D is for a drum roll. You get floating bubbles for some reason if you wanted that with O. The Q is actually like, it'll go shh and like hush people, which is kind of fun. So let's see if I can go to a more boring slide and get this to do the animation that I want. Did someone just hit the shh? I heard it.
There it is.
See, so there's the Q, here's an M. That's our mic drop. What are some of the other letters? D for drum rolls. So our floating bubble. For whatever reason. Is there another one? C. That's our confetti, which is really fun. And then the more you can confetti fly. So you'll see it did like from the side initially, and then it does from the bottom and the top too. It just kind of throws it around. So those are really fun. We did this for a CD meeting last year where like people were sharing like some of the great things that happened throughout the year. And so basically after everybody shared, I was like, hammering away at the C so that confetti was flying around all over the place. But that's a really fun way that you can kind of bring some life to your slide deck. And again, do something different that Google Slides can't do. Other things, let's see. Patty says, is it Canva that I use for branded email templates? So the email templates that I send out, like the one for this event, that actually happened within Gmail. So within your Gmail account, and I'll pop in over here, when you go to create an email, right, you hit compose. And that is this button down here. So it says select the layout. And then this allows you to use some of these other buttons. If you don't have that as a part of your account, let me know and we can work to get that for you. It's just a different bucket that we got to put you in. Okay, so that's how you would do that. However, there are elements that you could do within Canva that then you could just insert as an image into your email. It would work in a very similar way if you wanted to.
It's your signature.
Yep, yeah, exactly. So Joey just mentioned is perfect. So that's how I did my signature here. So it looks like a little business card. That's all I typed in, was I typed in business card into Canva. It had this option. I changed up the colors. And now this is an image that
I have all those options, like along the bottom, I don't have any. of
this
them.
one here.
Yeah,
So that's it. That is a GIF. So I made the GIF in Canva. I saved that GIF and then I inserted it in here. Is that what you're talking about?
no, I'm.
You're
actually
talking these little doodads here.
The options. yeah.
So it depends on where your account is within our domain. There are a couple different buckets. This is getting super nerdy for a second. But there are certain features that some people have that others don't. But
I
again,
want Google Drive, like attached to mine, that would be really.
It should be.
that should be there.
I have nothing to attach to the bottom.
Okay, actually, we can look at yours, or
Yeah.
Joey can look at yours.
Curious
But that's how I did this, this email signature here. All it is an image. You could choose to link that out if you wanted to. This is just a GIF that I created, so that way I didn't have like a million little pictures underneath the thing. So it's a really fun way to, again, just inject some new life into our work. Okay. Some other things that I want you to be mindful of as we are kind of wrapping things up, and then I'll answer any and all of your questions that we have. I know I'm at 11 o'clock. There's some essential tools and some buttons that I use that I want you to be mindful of. This is just kind of like your quick hit area, kind of a summary of a lot of the things that we talked about here today. So present, share, you have like a speaker notes area. If that's a thing that you're interested in, you can pull that in. Transparency is a thing that we didn't talk about, but we probably should. Let me go to our flower here in this example. Let's say that I wanted this flower to not be as bold as what it currently is. That's this button here. So we see our little pixelation. I can change this transparency to now allow me to see what's happening behind it. So think of this as kind of like your ability to create like a watermark on items too. That might be a reason why you would want to use this. So that transparency piece, you know, maybe we wanted it to be behind here, but now it makes it really hard to see. So maybe I want my transparency. So like it's giving the impression of a flower, but it's making my words a little bit more prominent. We also have flip, which we didn't talk about. Flip just allows you to change things horizontally or vertically. So you can use that as you would like to, but that's really nice. What else we got? We did our timers, we did our animations, we did all those other items. Okay, so I would consider what we just did a very nice level 1 starting place. What questions are still lingering that I can answer for you as we look to wrap up our time this morning? This document has all kinds of stuff for you. If you scroll up to the top, I talk about the difference of your images, what those different image file types are. I talk about some other things like how to bring in some different template galleries for all the things that you're using. I talk about formatting within like your Google Docs and other Google products, and a whole bunch of other stuff. So like I said, I just try to put all the design stuff in one space so that you could easily access it later. So if this is something you would like to add to your drive, feel free to do so. If it's something that you want to just make a copy of, that's also great. But this has been a ton of fun, and I really, really appreciate you all coming and joining us online. The afternoon session is exactly the same as what was done here. So level 2, maybe we'll try again in the spring, try to find a common day when a lot of districts are off, but we may be in, and we'll do some of those level 2 tasks. But yeah, level 1 is going to be the topic for this afternoon as well, just catching some of our friends who may not have been able to make it to the morning. Okay. If you have questions, my email is just matthew.mays at the same thing your email is at. So if you're a Stark ESC person and you like using that one, that's great. If you're trained with the apps.spark.org, that's great too. Both of them are going to send the email to me. So however you would like to get in contact, I'm happy to help you. And then my desk is in the curriculum area. So if you just want to come in person and have a design session, I would love that. So yeah, really, really wonderful. Thanks so much for being here. I will be the last one out of the room, both physically and digitally. So if you have a question and you want to unmute, or if you have a question and you want to stick around, please feel free to do so. And this was super fun. I hope you have a great holiday break. If you have any other questions, please find me and we can create some fun stuff together.